Good morning, everyone. This is Shobhit Singhal, and welcome to this amazing podcast. It's a fresh day, and it's coming to an end of 2020. And what an amazing way to end this month because I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Namita Shah, and I have actually made notes of her introduction because she has done so much of in her short life. And she's the co-founder of Pre-Solve 360. It's an online dispute resolution legal tech company, and she is a gold medalist in CA. She has done CPA and she has done LLB. She has also studied cybercrime management from the Asian School of Cyber Laws. Namita has been recognized by among the top 60 of the women transforming India in 2018 by none other than Government of India. She recently graduated as a top 5 women entrepreneur and entrepreneurship and empowerment foundation run in association with Niti Aayog and IIT. I think those achievements are something which people look for the lifetime, and she has achieved such a young age. So I would say, Namita, this is such an amazing achievement, and thank you so much for being on this channel. I can't thank you enough for doing this. Thank you so much. How do you feel?
Thank you, Shobhit. That's a very kind introduction. And I'm sure the interview today is going to add one other enriching experience in my journey. And I'm all ready to answer all the questions that come my way today.
Thank you, Namita. So before we start, I just want to tell everyone that we Namita and I met in last month in a TED Circle meeting, and it was organized by leading NGO of Mumbai, Prerna Foundation, and that was she was a subject matter expert on one of the legal topic. So basically, it was supposed to be a fruitful, healthy discussion, which turned out to be a Q&A because she was such an intrigued person to listen to the kind of knowledge that he was sharing, and she was sharing knowledge in such a beautiful layman's terms, not in legal terms that people get scared. In fact, till date, I don't know the full forms of LLB and LLM. So
No, that's
legal
okay.
the legality is such a complex thing, but she made it
Yeah.
sound so simple for everyone. So that's how I was blown away with the information, and I thought that I have to get her on my channel and make people more aware. So before we start, I just want to tell everyone that what is like for next 40 to 50 minutes, whatever you're going to spend with us, all of us, the main agenda is to make legal awareness. The main agenda is to decode the legal system of this country. The main agenda of this podcast, the main agenda of this video is to free of cost take Namita's knowledge into our system. So that's what our agenda is, and today we are going to decode everything. So before we get into technical questions, Namita, before we get into legal system, heavy question, let's take a light dose. I just want to understand, like, what is your background like. I just want to understand where you come from and what kind of education you have done. I'm sure you have done great achievement, but still, what's in a few minutes, if you can share what your life journey has been till date.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think before I start that, I'm going to say that this is not a free of cost session. It's invaluable because I do genuinely believe that knowledge is something that only grows when you share. And you
Great.
just can't keep it to yourself because that loses the entire essence of it. So it's definitely invaluable and not free of cost. I would start with that. And
100%.
coming to my life, in short, I'm going to summarize about 2.5 decades. I actually come from a family of doctors, and both my parents are medical professionals and they have their own hospital. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that I knew early on that medicine is not for me. Normally it's like when you see your parents as doctors, you are kind of told that you should do medicine. But I think since then, I've been starting to defy what's considered a normal or a safer path. And I knew that medicine was not for me very early on in my career. And believe it or not, when I was in eighth standard, I knew that science wasn't for me because science at that time had two options in India. One was medicine and the other was engineering. Right now, there are a lot of roles, and I actually wanted to do something in physics and in maths, but there was not that much scope in the field that I wanted to do in India. And that time, my parents were very averse to me going abroad and exploring career opportunities elsewhere. And I realized that, okay, science is not for me. At that age, I knew that I was going to do commerce and I was going to do chartered accountancy, and I love numbers. So I think that was pretty set out for me by myself only that I'm going to do chartered accountancy when I was, I think, 13 or 14 before I even fully understood what chartered accountancy meant. And I think that's what happened. I took commerce. I, in fact, was the first girl in my school. My school is very old, it's over 150 years old. I was the
Okay.
first girl to do well in studies and actually take commerce. And I remember my physics professor that time calling me and telling me that chartered accountants only book chartered planes for people who do science, and that's the rule that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be if you take commerce. And
Mm-hmm.
I took chartered accountancy. I pursued it with complete dedication and rigor. And when I cleared chartered accountancy, I did fairly well in that. And when I cleared chartered accountancy, I remember going back to my professor and saying that, you know what, chartered accountants don't only do that. And that was just very narrow minded. So please do not ever tell that to any other student who aspires to do something which you don't consider traditional or you don't consider a good choice.
Great.
And that's how I did chartered accountancy. And while doing chartered accountancy, I realized that finance and law are something that are required in every field. And they are
Mm-hmm.
interlinked also in a lot of ways. And that's what helped me pursue LLB. After chartered accountancy, I pursued LLB. In the between, I did want some international exposure as well. So that's when I did CPA, which is the US equivalent to a CA. I studied from here, prepared from here, just went to give the exam. And in fact, that's when I realized that how different things are here and there. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
both have their plus points, both have their disadvantages, but there is a lot of scope as well to take best practices across and do something to implement it here in where we are. And while doing chartered accountancy, also, I worked in the luxury goods industry. And at that time, I saw so many disputes. I saw so many
Mm-hmm.
things happen because, ego comes in the way of business, ego comes in the way of family. And I realized that all of this can be actually avoided if it is handled correctly and at the right time. And when I started exploring more and more, I realized
Mm-hmm.
that out of court options of looking at legal disputes are almost non existent in India.
Yeah.
Although out of court settlements, mediations, arbitrations, these have been popular concepts here, what I realized is they are not very practical and they're not very accessible to the common man. There's no awareness at all. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I realized that although this is a problem, this is a huge opportunity waiting to be capitalized upon. And I realized that when I've seen all those things in my past, I could definitely want to change that same thing repeating in the future. And that's what led me to co-found Presolve 360.
Yeah.
Resolve 360, just to give a brief background, is an online dispute resolution platform which helps people and companies to resolve their legal disputes out of court. There's no involvement of the court. We do it completely online and we ensure that people get solutions within 30 to 45 days
Mm-hmm.
instead of waiting for years and years in the court
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms as they exist today. So that's
Great.
briefly summarizing about 2.5 decades.
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. In fact, I was talking to one of the lawyers, and I asked, "What is the first advice you give your client?" And she told me that the first advice I give my clients is go don't go to courts. So,
Believe
so.
it or not, we actually did a survey. We did a survey about a couple years ago. We surveyed
Mm-hmm.
over 1,000 participants in and around courts in Mumbai. And every
Mm-hmm.
single lawyer that we asked that do you or your family members have any cases in the court, every single one of them said no.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That's something worth thinking about.
Great, great. So, if I look at from common man's point of view, if I, for example, when I grew up, like now, though I'm exposed to legal system, but when I grew up, I saw that for years court cases run. Nirbhaya case happened in 2012, and 2020 the result, like some
Yeah.
closure was given. So it's a battle of long, and the Bollywood have a perception, tariq pe tariq kind of system, but that's in a way true. So the legal system is like in common man's point of view, it's broken. In fact, one of my friend is going through a divorce case, and she's telling me that every date there is a new date, and there's no solution. Like it's going on since years now, Shobhit. So I just want to understand, Namita, why this system is so broken, why this system is not, I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but why it is not at least on a solution based level, why it
Okay.
is so broken according to your experience.
So before I get into why, I'll get into how the system is flawed. Let me
Okay.
give you some shocking statistics that are
Mm-hmm.
issued actually by a government funded survey itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to register a basic civil case, let's say you have to recover 1 lakh rupees from someone,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Mm-hmm.
register your case today in 2020, you
Mm-hmm.
may expect a resolution not before the year 2033. On an
Okay.
average, it is 13 years that it
Mm-hmm.
takes for a civil case to be disposed of by the court. And after that, you have to go into enforcement, which is another challenge altogether. So you get an award, you get a judgment in your favor. After that, you have to look at how to implement the entire award, and it takes
Mm-hmm.
at least about 15 to 17 years for the entire process to happen. Now imagine 1 lakh today and imagine recovering it after 13 years. Does it make any sense?
Correct.
That is
Correct.
one. Let me tell you about the backlog. Everybody knows that we have over 3 crore pending cases. The
Hmm.
fact is that this backlog itself is expected to take over 300 years to be resolved at the current rate. And on
Are you
top of
s-
that,
are you serious?
300 years, just let that sink in. So that means in the year
Okay.
2320 is when the backlog will end. If
Okay.
there is no new case filed in the court. Now let
Oh
me
my God.
add
Hmm.
another statistic to it.
Hmm.
Every single day in Indian courts, 40,000 new cases are being filed. That is the level and the volume of work that the court mechanisms face today. The backlog, the pendencies, adding to
Hmm.
that newer cases,
Hmm.
and then lots of other problems like judicial vacancies. There are no judges
Hmm.
available.
Hmm.
Today, if you are a law student and you have to
Hmm.
choose a career path, a lawyer, being a lawyer is far more remunerative than being a judge. What would somebody
Hmm.
pick? What incentivizes someone to hold the position of a judge? There are so many levels of this problem that it becomes humongous to
Hmm.
actually resolve itself. And that is why
Hmm.
there is a need for people to provide alternative dispute resolution services, and there is a
Hmm.
bigger need for people and businesses to accept these services as mainstream,
Hmm.
to look at these services as the first resort mechanism,
Hmm.
and to look at courts as the last resort.
Hmm.
Today, a case like Nirbhaya, where everything was crystal clear, took about 8 years, that too for such a
Hmm.
heinous crime. Is that
Hmm.
even justice? 8 years for something like that. And
Hmm.
it's people themselves, it is very easy always to blame the court mechanisms, to blame the judiciary. But it is also the responsibility of the people to not, I wouldn't say waste the time of the court, but to try everything to look at a settlement or look at an out of court
Hmm.
resolution and
Hmm.
then approach the court as a last resort.
Hmm.
In India, it's a thing that whenever you have an argument with someone, you just say court mein dekh lenge or I'll see you in
Ah.
court. But that
Hmm.
is not the mentality that people also should have. That is
Hmm.
something also that's required to be changed, along with, of course, efficiency of the way the judicial mechanisms work. It's like you clap with both hands. So I'm not
Hmm.
going to say that it is only the fault of the court or only the fault of the public, but
Hmm.
everybody, every citizen needs to recognize that laws exist to
Hmm.
help them, and court should be the last resort when everything else fails, not the first resort. And as you said, that tariq pe tariq is how it is looked at. But who asks for these dates? It is lawyers itself who say that, okay, today I'm busy, or they take multiple matters and they cannot attend it, or
Correct.
they are
Correct.
not prepared, they are not ready. So
Hmm.
it is not only the fault of the court. And what also happens is our entire judicial system is based on this concept that no person who is not guilty should be punished, even if it means that guilty people have to run scot free. That means that no person should get a punishment who
Hmm.
doesn't deserve it, even if it
Hmm.
means that somebody who deserves it gets away in the proceedings. That
Hmm.
is why they give you so many options to represent your case. They are
Hmm.
supposed to, they are bound to.
Correct.
And who takes advantage of this? It is the lawyers, it is a certain class of people who want it to be extended.
Hmm.
It's not just the fault of the judicial machineries only. Of course, there is a lot that can be done to improve that as well, but it works together in synchronization with the entire society. Everyone has to work together to ensure that this
Hmm.
problem doesn't persist in our country. It is not just the
Hmm.
duty of the judges, it is
Hmm.
equally the duty of the lawyers, and it is equally the duty of disputing parties as well to work together to ensure that our future generation does not have to struggle so much for justice.
Yeah, correct. So, so basically, what you're saying is the main reason of delay of cases in the courts is not only because of the system; it's also
Yeah.
because of the lawyers. It's also because of the kind of cases that comes to the court. If, in fact, I remember from TED Talk you tell there's a 500 rupee Google Pay and there's a case based
Yes.
on that. So that's the reason cases are been piling up.
Yes,
So.
there are cases that are registered for 1 rupee, for 300 rupees, for 10,000 rupees. You imagine the court systems being used for this. I understand that, sometimes it's a matter of right and wrong, but sometimes in certain cases, practicality is above all of this. And people need to understand that for frivolous cases, you cannot go to court. And if you analyze different cases, you will find a huge number of these cases actually being frivolous in nature just for harassment. that also adds to the pendency, that also adds to our economy losing money. Let me tell you, that reminds me that India loses about 0.67% of its GDP, which is about 80,000 crores every year, just because of court hearings.
Hmm.
Because people have to attend court hearings, they lose business because of that. And the cost to the Indian economy is 80,000 crores every single year. That is the price that we are paying because we do not choose to settle, or because we do not choose to let go of the past and move on to a future. Of
Hmm.
course, there are certain cases that come in the criminal category, and those definitely demand and deserve justice. But
Hmm.
for other cases that are in the civil spectrum, and these are
Hmm.
huge in number, crores of crores every year, there is a better alternative to settle them. And
Hmm.
people need to understand that, people need to be aware about them, and people need to opt for them. And lawyers also need to advise accordingly.
Hmm.
They should understand that just because you have more and more hearings
Hmm.
does not only mean more and more bills. In fact,
Hmm.
if you give a solution to your client, you will ensure that the client comes to you every single year.
Hmm.
So just settling cases does not mean loss of revenue. It
Hmm.
means that ensuring that you have a lifelong relation with the client. So it is, of course, the judicial setup, it is then the lawyers, and it is also the general public. All need to work in synchronization
Hmm.
so that we don't continue and take this problem ahead as well.
Just from just in understanding this, so ADR, alternative dispute resolution, is basically settlements outside the course, and there are a lot of mediators, negotiators, arbitrators in this system, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong, right? So I just want to understand from your experience that as a person, why let's say I'm a sensible human being. My first instinct should be to resolve something. Then why do I go to court? What is the emotion behind that
Sure.
action in your experience? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell everyone to do a small experiment here.
uh,
Go on Google and type mediation. And
okay.
when you do that, there'll be a small sentence on the top saying that, did you mean meditation? And that is the awareness level in our country for ADR. People do
Correct.
not know that these options exist, that they
Yeah.
are legal. When you say out of court, people often construe them to be under the table. कि
Under the table,
settlement
yeah.
करना पड़ेगा, या फिर you'll have to do something like that,
Yeah.
which is not the case at all. In fact, our laws provide for ADR. They provide for helping people to look at out of court resolutions, but people are not aware. As you said at the start of this conversation, when it comes to the word legal, everybody gets scared and everybody thinks, oh, this is something that we'll never be able to understand. But that's not the case at all. Laws and legalities exist to help you through life and through business. They do not exist independent of those. And the first instance here is to go to a lawyer. And more often than not, then laws start getting involved. And we do believe that the best way to resolve any dispute between any parties is to keep laws and legalities out of it. Because disputes did not happen seeing the law, they happened seeing a practical transaction that happened
Correct.
between people. And
Correct.
then when lawyers get involved and you send a notice, then suddenly it becomes a matter of ego. Suddenly it becomes a matter of emotion.
Yeah, yeah,
The
correct.
focus moves from the problem, it moves from what is right to who is right. And that is the
Correct.
beginning of the end. If people understand that they have to look at what is right and not who is right, and they have to look at how they can move forward irrespective of this happening, that is when the problem will start to solve itself in a much better manner.
So, in fact, I'll share. I want to share something that I'm doing my MBA currently, Master of Business Law from NLSIU Bangalore. And
Okay.
when one of my classes, my contract law faculty, someone asked randomly, "So, what is the best career for a legal
Hmm.
executive like me?"
Profession.
So, blatantly, he said, "If you're not choosing ADR as a profession, you're a fool." He blatantly said that. And like he was a leading faculty of a leading college, but he
Wow.
said that ADR is the future of this legal system.
Yes.
If you're
I'm
not,
so happy to hear that.
yeah. And I was even then I started researching about ADR, and then I researched, like, I don't know what how it's true or not, but I read articles that Ambani brothers or
Yes, yes.
big corporate houses, even like, people don't want to waste time in courts. They say कि
Yes.
settlement karo, khatam karo. I want to, like, do my business peacefully now.
Let me
A
add something in that. When you
Yeah,
said about the Ambani brother, the entire settlement between the brothers was done via an ADR mechanism. They did not go to court in spite of
exactly.
being able to afford the best of lawyers in the
Yes,
country.
correct, correct.
That is one. Let me tell you about another law firm
Mm-hmm.
Amar and Mangaldas, when they split,
Mm-hmm.
they also chose an out of court mechanism to split the firm,
Exactly.
themselves
Correct.
being lawyers, because
Correct.
ADR does provide a very effective and efficient solution.
Exactly. Exactly.
Also, that although I'm going to say here that there are a certain category of cases which often involve criminal intent or criminal acts
Yes.
that
Correct. Correct.
definitely require
Mm-hmm.
justice. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of civil disputes, especially those that are commercial in nature or smaller,
Mm-hmm.
easier, relatively vanilla family matters
Mm-hmm.
that can be resolved beautifully out of court.
Correct.
This will
Correct.
help not only the parties, but as I explained
Yes.
earlier, even the entire
Mhm.
country as well.
Mhm. In fact, these involve divorce cases, these involve property disputes, everything that can be resolved between the parties. There is no
Yes,
criminal, as you said, there is no criminal intent involved.
yes,
These are you are completely right. I have seen people calling the police for neighbors partying, and that
yes,
might end
yes,
up in court. Then the lawyer is giving argument that was a trespassing issue because you came to our house to blame us. It goes for years, and I have seen
exactly.
that in my friend's house. So
No,
yeah,
no,
you are
it's more
completely right.
common than we think it is.
Yes,
And then when
correct.
police doesn't reach, when there's actually a crime, we blame the police. That's
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So yeah, that's something I completely agree with that. So so you have been a part of legal system as a student as well as a professional
yes,
now.
yes.
What is, I'm sure it's not always bad. It's always good also.
No, no.
So what is the best experience and what is the worst experience you had?
Okay, so I'm going to say that I respect education and the educational institutions and
Mm-hmm.
all the teachers and the entire faculty, because I do believe that that is what shapes the
Correct,
mentality of our future generation.
correct, correct.
So there are, of course, a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
The rigor with which it is taught, the
Mm-hmm.
discipline that it inculcates in students in our country, it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fantastic because
Correct.
it does get the best out of you. It molds you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would respect that absolutely. I do feel
Mm-hmm.
that it is a little bit of theory. It should
Mm-hmm.
move on to something that is more practical in nature,
Okay.
because of course you need theory, you can never replace
Mm-hmm.
it, but you also in
Mm-hmm.
today's world need to
Mm-hmm.
evolve with changing times.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the 40 minutes of our interview, there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a newer technology in these 40 minutes itself,
Correct.
and
Correct.
education also needs to evolve to match up. So I do
Mm-hmm.
believe that that is something
Mm-hmm.
that can be worked on. Of course, the rigor is amazing, the passion
Mm-hmm.
with which it is taught and it is learned is amazing. But what I do feel that it has to have more of a practical approach to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
on paper, you may read what is ADR, but if you don't have internships for ADR, or if you don't tell
Mm-hmm.
students that this is also mandatory for you to do,
Mm-hmm.
how are they going to learn? What often happens is, as law students, we are often
Mm-hmm.
taught to argue and we are
Yes.
often taught to win the case.
Mm-hmm.
But we are not taught that let it be a win-win for the parties.
Settlement.
And that is something that needs to be taught, because how to look at it from a practical viewpoint is something that our education system, if evolved to, would do wonders for the students as well.
So Harvey Specter is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Closing the deals are actually good.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, because you mentioned that
Yeah.
in USA, about 97 or 98% of cases are settled pre-trial,
Correct.
and in
Correct.
India, the
Correct.
numbers are actually reversed.
Hmm. In fact, when I was watching Suits, sorry to bring this off topic, but when I was watching Suit, I was always intrigued by this concept of what is this, what they are doing? They are getting into a conference room and their
Yes,
deposition. What is all this? So then I researched about it, and then I got to know that before the trial even happens, they are trying to
yes,
resolve. It's basically
exactly.
settlement outside the courts, in simple
Yes,
terms.
yes,
And India, there is no concept like that. I have never seen any party doing this.
yes,
At least in my experience, in my studies, what I've done. So
yes,
yes, that culture has to be
yes.
I guess that has to be promoted in such a way that
Yes. Oh,
yes.
so I'm going to add here that India too is evolving in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
where now for commercial disputes, a pre-trial mediation is becoming
Correct.
mandatory, which
Correct.
means
Oh.
that for commercial disputes of certain categories, parties have
Mm-hmm.
to try for a settlement.
Okay.
Only if that fails, they have to file a failure report, and then they can initiate a case in the court. So India
Mm-hmm.
also is understanding that this is the need of the hour, and
Mm-hmm.
even laws are now being framed towards making ADR and ODR
Mm-hmm.
mainstream. ODR is
Correct.
the online version of
Mm-hmm.
ADR. It's the
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
ADR doing it
Mm-hmm.
online. So all those things are also happening. It is
Mm-hmm.
now the responsibility of the legal fraternity, of
Mm-hmm.
the court systems, and most importantly of the people to opt for these and
Mm-hmm.
to explore these opportunities.
Correct. Correct. So Namita, so basically, I wanted to know the good experience, like the best experience you have in your in years. with
Best
from
experience
legal, yeah.
as in while studying.
As a legal professional, whatever, like, okay, this is something
Okay.
where I felt good today, something like that.
Okay,
So,
so I'll talk about the first case that we did. That time we
okay,
were doing some pilot cases, and it
okay,
was in relation to this widow, and
okay.
she lost her husband about when we met her when this thing happened about
Mm-hmm.
6 years before that, and she came from a very humble background, and she lost her husband to a fatal motor accident, and then she had to take up a job as a clerk somewhere, and she had 3 children and mounting debt, and
Mm-hmm.
she was just going to the motor accident claims tribunal without any sort of resolution in mind. The papers were clear, case was clear, the compensation was due to her, but it was just not coming. And after a while, people stopped responding to her and helping her. The legal team that was helping her, nothing was happening. And then she approached us, and we spoke to the insurance company, and within 60 days, the amount was credited to her account. And we did a negotiation between her and the insurance company. Everything was cleared. The matter got settled. The amount got transferred to her. And the day she settled the matter, she came to us and she said, thank you for saving my life. And till today, when I think of that incident, I know that I'm doing something right if I can do this for more and more people, if I can do this for more and more companies, and if I can do this for my country. So that has been something that has stayed with us, and that is something that we look back to every time, when we realize that what are we doing, or are we going in the right direction? Because even if we can do it for one person, we do
Mm-hmm.
believe that for us it's one case, but for them it's their entire life at stake.
Correct, correct.
So that has been one of the highlights for sure.
Correct. So, Namita, from considering every single citizen of this country, common citizens, lawyers, judges, educators, even CAs or anyone who's in this country, every one of us, not in a generic way, but specific way, or even in a generic way, what should be our immediate step to improve legal system? For example, one takeaway was that, stop getting into cases unnecessary. If there's a
Yeah,
thousands rupees, even lakh rupees settlement, get it done, settle the party and go. So one solution is that don't go to court until there is like a criminal intent is required. Apart from that, what should be our action steps for the next few years at least to minimize the burden of legal system?
sure. Number one is awareness.
Mm,
Like, today in our schools, we are taught about the basics of science, basics of math, basics of
mm,
history, geography, but we are
mm.
not taught about basics of law, about
Yeah,
finance, taxes,
correct,
etc.
correct.
So, first is self awareness.
Mm,
Your education cannot be your only source of learning.
mm,
It has to be something that you need to do on a daily basis. Get yourself acquainted with the basics in the industry that you work in,
mm.
and study the laws in a simplified manner. They're very simple, Of course, there are legal
Yes,
jargons, but if you read more about it, it is understandable even to the common man. So when
yes.
you start understanding those, or if you face a legal issue,
Mm-hmm.
you start
Mm-hmm.
understanding your options, you speak to your
Mm-hmm.
lawyer, but don't be completely unaware. Don't think that legal or lawyer is too complicated, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that for yourself, understand your options, and then take action accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let ego come in the way of a dispute.
Correct,
Because at
correct.
that time, what happens, it becomes almost impossible to settle.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a dispute arises, look at your options from a practical lens, not only
Mm-hmm.
from an egotistical lens, and
Mm-hmm.
see that, do you want this for your future? Do you want to pass this on as a legacy? We often say that legal issues today have become legacy issues, passed on from generation to generation. So
Mm-hmm.
value what's more important to you. And if there is an option of avoiding going to the court, even if there's a small chance of trying something where you won't have to go to court for something that does not involve criminal intent, explore it. Explore it no matter what, because justice, even after 10, 15 years, is probably not worth it.
Correct. In
So
fact,
take decision accordingly.
yes.
And even when you are, around your family and friends, you have most influence around your family and friends when they are facing something like that. For example, as you spoke about your friend, if if you are there, you are aware of it, you explain that to her,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to have maximum impact on her. We all know people in our circles that have at least one court case. If we can guide them and help them to ensure that they can do what's best for them, sometimes we are so close to the problem that we can't see it from a bird's eye perspective. If we can provide that to others, that will also definitely help. And another thing is, of course, stop completely blaming the judiciary. We have to take it upon ourselves as well to be educated about these things, to be aware about these other options, and then to actually go ahead and explore them and implement them. Like for example, if in a company, when there are so many employment disputes, if they can have a small cell where they can look at handling those employment disputes in a peaceful atmosphere, so many things can be avoided. In fact, one of the law colleges around our vicinity, they have a small cell that is run by students itself that talk about issues between students. So once a week for 2 hours, they have a dedicated team, and any student who has an issue with another can come and talk about it and resolve it. It's like a cultural change that they are trying to implement in the students itself.
Mm.
But don't look at fighting. Fighting is not healthy. Of course,
Mm.
disputes happen. Of course, conflicts happen. But combat is always a choice.
Mm.
Should be only when required to take that choice. So that is what I'd say. That's something for everyone
Great.
to think about.
Great words of wisdom. Awesome, Namita. So, Namita, I am an education consultant, and
Right.
I have been working in education since more than 3 years now. And currently, I head an institute, as a part of the institute where legal education is given to students for admission purpose, CLAT. So
Right.
shattering numbers that in IIT 13.5 lakh students sit every year, latest data, and in CLAT only 60,000, not even 10%
Wow.
of what is engineering
Yeah.
students.
Wow.
And the ratio of getting into an IIT and legal system is, first IIT is 1 is to 124. You get,
Okay.
and considering not the top IITs, considering all 20 IITs,
All.
and in NLUs, legal colleges, 1 is to 16.
Oh,
So it's almost 10 times less than IITs.
right.
Still, people are crazy about engineering, medical. So, so I just want to ask you, in your experience, like, is legal education not good, or is legal awareness not good, or is NLUs, like the law colleges are even worth going? That people have this concept कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, law नहीं करना हमको, या अगर law करना है तो हमको इसी कॉलेज से करना है, हमको किसी नॉर्मल कॉलेज से नहीं करना. That's also perception कि करना है तो बेस्ट से करेंगे वरना नहीं करेंगे. So what, in this scenario of legal education not getting promoted, people are not aware about. In fact, I stay in Bangalore. The best engineering college is in Delhi. The best management college is in Ahmedabad. The best fashion technology in Pune. But the best legal college of this country is Bangalore. Half of the Bangalore don't even know that exist, and that's the reality.
That's true. That's true.
So I just want to understand: is legal education worth it? Firstly, as you said, it's theoretical, but still, in words, it's in a very broad spectrum. Is it worth it? And if yes, then what kind of colleges? If only NLUs are required, or only even normal colleges can give you a good
Okay.
education? What is your view on this?
So a couple of things that come to my mind. First is
Mm-hmm.
law forms
Mm-hmm.
the backbone of any society.
Correct.
And just like you cannot imagine a world without doctors, you definitely cannot imagine a world without lawyers and judges as well.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to understand and know that. Like what has happened over time is that the entire startup culture, the entire culture of building a tech product, all that has become very cool, so to say. Like it is considered to be a fashion choice now to be an entrepreneur. But people don't understand that that can happen in any field.
Correct.
And it is
Correct.
it is the role of course, educators like yourselves and also schools, also colleges, to let people know
Mm-hmm.
that just because you are in a background like law and finance does not mean it's boring. It is as cool. And what people often don't know is, say, when we talk about engineering, talking about theory and practical in engineering colleges, if you check the syllabus till today, when they are taught about televisions, they are taught about those big fat televisions that we had years ago, and not those ultra thin TVs that are made. When there
Correct.
are EVs today actually running on roads, they are taught about the first motor vehicle and how it was developed. So it is not that theory is a problem only in law school. What has happened is there are so many movies being made about engineers, so many shows about IT, about scientists. But what shows are there for lawyers and for finance people? Maybe
Jolly
one, that is Suits, and maybe one movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing, it's the responsibility of our generation to ensure that the future generation knows how important law is And doing law does not just mean wearing a black coat and going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
court. That is
exactly.
what people need to understand, that you can do
Hmm.
law and learn technology. Like, I do not have an educational background in technology, but we are building our own platform for
Hmm.
helping people settle. We are using artificial intelligence, we are using machine learning and data analytics.
Hmm.
And just
Hmm.
because we are law students or we are law graduates does not stop us from exploring
Hmm.
those. So people
Correct.
need to understand that no matter whether you're an engineer, you cannot build a law tech product unless you know law.
Exactly.
It works both ways. As an engineer, you cannot build, say, for example, a fashion website if you have no
Hmm.
idea about fashion.
Hmm.
Both need
Yeah.
to work hand in hand, and people need to know that lawyering just does not mean
Hmm.
kala suit. It does not mean
Hmm.
tariq pe tariq, and in fact,
Hmm.
they need to know that if you want to change tariq pe tariq, you have to
Hmm.
take law and pursue it.
Correct.
So yes,
So yeah, in fact, I have a very good theory which I give seminars in colleges to schools, and I created a good pitch to to pitch law to students, 10th class students. So I made a pitch, and it was very appreciated. That let's say you are a lawyer, and Monday you are in your office, and Karan Johar comes to your office, and he says that I want to make Game of Thrones. So you should know more about script writing and all that more than Karan Johar. On Tuesday, there's a doctor who comes to your office and he says that I have left a scissor inside the patient. You should know about the operation more than the doctor as a lawyer. On Wednesday, an engineer comes to your office and he says that okay, I have made a blunder with this bridge. You should know more about the concept of building a bridge more than the engineer. On Thursday, a dentist come to your place, or a Friday, a fashion designer come to your place. So you're not just choosing law will give you like exposure to every profession in this
that's very, very profound and true, Shobhit. Yes,
so it was just for like, and I is a
yes.
exaggerated version, but I believe it's
No, no,
true
but that is
because
true. That is true.
yeah,
That is very,
and
very
that
true.
was told to me one by one of the lawyers. He told me that I have got a doctor case and doctor was sued by a patient, and he did some chemotherapy, some session or something. So he said that I had in 1 week, I had 1 or 2 weeks, I had to prepare my argument. I read the entire process of getting that operation done. What that guy studied for years in medical college, I studied that for one
Mm.
week because
That is
I
very,
have to
very
prepare
true.
my. So I'm
Yes.
very
In fact, law and finance are
mm,
two such subjects that cannot exist independently.
correct.
If you don't have a business, what will you account for? And if you
Yeah,
don't have a business, what
exactly.
laws will you look at? So that gives you exposure to knowing about every industry, to
Exactly.
knowing, to get a holistic perspective about
Correct.
life and business.
Correct.
And it is very, very interesting. Some of the cases that come our way also, they make you think. They
Mhm.
expand your mind to a level that you can't go back then.
Correct. In fact, I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm very intrigued with books, you can see. So
Yes,
I'm like, I read a lot of books, and so Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says that it's not about earning more money; it's about managing the money that you have.
yes,
So
yes.
how to save taxes, how to build a corporation so that you can turn your expenses into business expenses that will not be taxed, and that is the legal education. That basically, if I have, for example, if I have a big corporation, everyone wants to take a piece of my corporation and they will sue me. How can you save yourself? That is also part of financial education, and
Exactly.
that is technically a legal education, because the minute something bad happens to me, oh, I need a good lawyer. Basic education, you can also educate yourself for
Yes,
being a law. So basically,
yes.
one education was given to me by one of the faculties of so basically, we were going on a bike in Bangalore, and there was a police guy. He came and stopped us, and I was the first instinct is I got scared, and I
Yes.
have to stop. He said, no, don't stop, keep going. I said, but police is there. Like, he's a civil, he's not a traffic police. He was wearing a
Hmm.
yellow police.
Huh.
He cannot stop you. He can only stop you if there's
Yes.
something is going on. In the normal scenario, only a white dress policeman, because he's a traffic policeman,
Yes.
he has the power to stop your vehicle, not this guy. I was like, okay, this is legal education. So
Yes.
according to me,
Yes.
these
And I
small
think,
nuances, yeah.
yes, legal education does not only lie on the shoulders of lawyers, it lies on the
Exactly.
shoulders of every person.
Yes.
You are living in this society means you are bound by laws already.
Exactly. Exactly.
And in fact, there is a law which says that no knowledge of the law is not an excuse. So today,
Yes.
if you commit a felon and you say that you
Mhm.
did not know that this was a felon by law, that is not an excuse that is going to stand.
Mhm. Yeah.
That is the importance of having
Correct.
legal knowledge,
Correct.
irrespective of whether you're a lawyer
Mhm.
or no. And here I'm compelled to say that It is
Mhm.
said that don't let education come in the way of your knowledge.
Correct, correct.
And that is something that everyone must think of in all fields. It's not only
Mhm.
restricted to lawyers and law
Yes.
students.
In fact, when you talk about education, you so very kind enough to say in a very sophisticated way. But as an education, I'm an education consultant. Every single day, I have contacts with school, to colleges, to
Right.
faculties. It's a shame the way we operate. I'm being very honest. In Bangalore, I'll not name the college for ethical purpose. Engineering college. I go for a training there. First year students are taught transistors there. Transistor like 1970s वो
Yeah.
radios नहीं आते थे.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are teaching them how to make those
Huh.
transistors and how that works function. दुनिया AI IoT पता नहीं कहाँ. Teslas is
Exactly.
like electric cars वो
Yeah.
टेस्ट कर रहे हैं. तुम यहाँ पे ट्रांजिस्टर सिखा रहे हो स्टूडेंट्स को. That
Exactly.
same college in I'll give one example. Mechanical engineering is a huge department of any engineering
Yeah.
college. 600 students got graduated from that college, and bloody 200 of them have a campus placement. 400 of them don't have a job.
Yes.
So the question is, why the hell did you choose engineering in the first place then? And even if you have chosen, why the hell are you doing this in through your own career? I'll again no names, but a legal. I was talking to a legal student, first year student, and she said, "Okay, sir, I want some help from you." Okay, no problem. And she was teaching, first year they were teaching Socrates and all Euro all that history of law. Good. I encourage, yes, you should study history, but the way they are teaching, this is the notes, go study, this is the test you have to do. There is no practical learning. There are no economics. I was teaching economics. There is like the only thing they're teaching economics is how to make this model, how to make the 10 principles of economics. I was the one who told her ki what is the practical aspects of going to this
Yes.
the teachers are 20-25 years old faculties, and they think good experience is good faculty. That's the mindset in colleges.
Yes, but
There's
fortunately for us, we do have something called the internet, and there are a
okay,
lot of such practical courses
exactly.
that are available for all students. And
Yes.
now it is upon the students to self
Mhm.
learn and to self
Yes.
educate themselves. And that is, I do
Mhm.
believe, the best way of learning. Even if
Yes.
you go to like, for example, I'm a chartered accountant, and I know many chartered accountants who don't know how to file their returns. Like, I know many lawyers who probably in their own case would require help because, of course, you specialize in a particular
Yeah.
aspect, but nothing restricts you, nothing stops you from learning more about other
Correct.
aspects,
Correct. Correct.
especially those that you yourself are facing. And
Correct.
we have Google, we have so many such platforms. It's like
Mhm.
everything is, the food is served for you. Are you going to bite it or no? No one is
Correct.
going to help you bite and swallow it. You have to take that effort yourself. And every student needs to understand, no matter which stream they do, there are things that you can't control and things that you can. You can't control what education is taught to you in a college, but you can control what you learn.
Mhm. Correct.
That
Correct.
always lies upon you, and that's always a choice.
Correct.
And
Correct.
it's important to make that choice of learning. That's why, said that education cannot come in the way of your learning.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I completely agree. So basically, there are a lot of lawyers who must be seeing this because I will share this on different law students
Yeah.
platform. So what is the immediate advice you have for them? Like, okay, you are going to be a lawyer in few years. You are in a law school right now. You are preparing for law, whatever it is. What is the first advice you have for them?
It's very simple. Lawyers think that, okay, if a case goes on for more hearings, that means more billings because billings happen per hearing. But that's not true at all. If
Hmm.
you do a settlement for your
Client.
client and you give them a solution, you will ensure that they come to you throughout their lives and they will do your publicity free of cost for you by way of word of mouth, which is the
Hmm.
most effective form of publicity. And as lawyers, you cannot market. This
Correct.
is what you should do. Look at your client's interest as your interest.
Hmm.
That is the first advice that I would give them.
Okay, okay. And students who are preparing and they think that they have to study too much reading, too much theoretical stuff. What advice would you have for them? Like for example, let's say a student is there in the college. What more they can do from their regular studies?
Yes.
Internships
Uh,
is one aspect, but other than that,
Other than that, is don't lose out on the chances of participating in things like moot courts, in stuff
yes.
like that. That will give you real life exposure in a
Mhm.
simulated environment. Make
Correct.
all the mistakes that you can when you're a student.
Okay.
That's what I would like to say, because later on those mistakes come at a huge price. So
Yeah.
don't
Correct.
be scared of exploring. Don't
Yeah.
stick to your particular role. Explore.
Mhm.
Use your time well, but also de-stress. That is also something that I'd like to tell students. Do
Yeah.
what you enjoy. Have that one passion that you love, which is not related to law at all, and stick to it. Do it, pursue it, no matter how hard it gets, because it's only going to get crazier.
Correct.
And I would also say at the same time, don't limit your learning to textbooks.
Mm.
Look, like, you are watching Netflix for 3 hours a day, probably watch it for 2 hours, and 1 hour spent watching a course that is going to give you practical insights into, for example, how to develop a law tech tool or something like that. So use your time well. These are the things that I'd like to tell myself when I was a student, and tell all the other people as well who
Yeah.
are still pursuing their education.
That's great. So you have already talked about your company, but I still wanted to know like what
Sure.
kind of so what kind of services do you like provide exactly? You said
Yes.
you have a platform.
Yes.
Like what
We are
exactly
a
is that?
platform. We are an online dispute resolution
Mm-hmm.
platform. We are
Mm-hmm.
recognized by the Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India.
Okay.
We help parties resolve and settle their civil disputes. So let's say you
Mm-hmm.
have any dispute in the civil
Mm-hmm.
space, you come
Mm-hmm.
on the platform, log in, register your
Mm-hmm.
dispute, and we'll help you come up with a resolution within 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
You will not need any lawyers to represent you. You will not need to go to court. You will not need
Mm-hmm.
legal knowledge. We will guide you through the entire process in a very, very practical manner. So we help you resolve your disputes within 30 to 45 days. Simply put, we do it completely online. You can access it from a laptop or even your smartphone. All
Okay.
you need is the will to settle it. That's
Okay.
it. Very
Awesome.
simply put, that's what we do at Resolve 360.
Awesome. Awesome. So, too much of heavy discussion today. I think viewers are fried up. So let's have some fun. I have prepared
Sure.
some rapid fire for you.
Done.
So yeah. So okay. So let's do it quickly. Okay. So your pet name.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So let's do our fun rapid fire.
Yeah.
Quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your pet name?
Namu,
No. Okay. You're a dog person or a cat person?
dog person.
Okay. And what is your guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Okay. Three books that you read and it changed your life.
Okay, the first one is The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. It's a
Michelle Legrand,
brilliant,
right?
brilliant book. Yes, a lot of practical insights about that book. An amazing book. I absolutely love that book. That's number one. Number two and three are very, very hard to, it's very difficult to pick, but I would just tell you the genres. I read a lot of self-help books, and things like you mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I think those are some phenomenal books in that category. And the other is I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies of entrepreneurs and business people, like The Everything Store, which is the entire journey of Jeff Bezos. There is also Shoe Dog, which is about the Nike story. These are hugely inspiring. If you read the struggles, we often think that, oh, these startups are fancy and so successful and everything's been so easy for them. Just look at their struggle, and it's motivating to see that they stuck by all of that. Like, just a very simple example, FedEx. He had no money. He had the last some dollars, and he knew that if that goes, he has to shut his company. He went to Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
gambled, and got the initial capital
Mm-hmm.
required, and see where FedEx is today.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone faces challenges, and these books give you a tremendous source of learning and inspiration as well. So these are the second and third, at least I'd say, genres of books that I absolutely enjoy reading.
A lot of common thing between you and me because
Yeah.
every single book you mentioned is in my bookshelf. So if you
Wow.
can look this book, Shoe Dog, right here.
Yes.
All
Yes.
this book, Seven Habits, this is there.
Yes.
All the books are there with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
even have
great.
a library in office as well.
Awesome, awesome. Would like to visit that one day.
Definitely. And they do not have legal books. Those are separate.
Yeah, okay. So on a Sunday, would you like to go out to hang out somewhere, or do you like to sit at home and chill?
A go out for sure.
You believe in love marriage or arranged marriage?
Whatever floats everyone's boat. I think marriage is marriage, whether love or arranged. It's a commitment of a lifetime.
Okay. Okay. Coffee person or a tea person?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were a journalist, what question would you ask these following people? Shah Rukh Khan.
Give us the secret to your energy. He's timeless.
Yeah. Okay. Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. What's your plan?
Okay. And Arnab goes for me.
Can you speak like a normal human?
Okay. Well, that's about it. And I think I had a great time, Namita.
For
And
me to Shobhit.
yeah, one last question if you would like to ask
Sure.
something to me.
Shobit, I would actually love to know what inspired you to take these interviews and share all of this amongst your entire community, build a community, and what motivates you to do this every single day?
So, a lot of backstories, but I won't go into details. But one thing like, for example, my company's name is Transformers Hub. So Transformers Hub is like that. I call myself knowledge transformation specialist. So the most expensive thing in the world today is knowledge, as you said that,
Very true.
and I've always believed that humans have evolved in different ages. There was a stone age,
Yeah.
then we lived in agricultural age, then we lived in industrial age, then technological age, then internet
Yeah.
age, then social media age, and today and the next future is knowledge zenith age. That means knowledge is the most abundant thing in this world today. So I paid, let's say I pay 10,000 rupees to a gym for a year, but I pay 10,000 rupees to a trainer for the knowledge that he has. So
True.
the knowledge is more expensive. So the idea behind doing these interviews, the idea behind of getting connected with people, first thing, knowledge sharing, as you said, is if in the beginning you said that it's not free of course, it's very invaluable. So that I
Yeah.
genuinely believe. And if you look at my YouTube channel, there are so many different conversations I had. Legal, today I'm having a legal
Yeah.
conversation, then
Yeah.
someday I had a parenting conversation, I was having some kind of depression conversation, different
Yeah.
conversations. And you know and for me the best thing is like listening to podcast of other people. So
Okay.
these Ranveer Alabadia, Dan Locke, all these guys, they have amazing insights. And while talking, and I have realized, once you have a prepared speech, okay, you are restricted to that what you want to say. But when you're having a conversation, ideas just float in your mind. Like today there
True.
was so many things that I didn't plan to discuss with you, but that just came naturally. So
Sure.
these conversations empower. And when people saw two people conversing about this, it's, I think the takeaways are most important learning. It's not like
Right.
bitha ke lecture karna is very different and observing is very different. So I
Very
always
true.
believe that. So I'm just trying to connect. And one thing that I've done my BBA and MBA, I'm doing my MBA, and I'm doing a lot of work. But one thing is there, that one thing no business school can teach you in this world. Harvard, IIMs, no school, and that is called as people management. I have understood
True.
one thing,
Very,
that
very true.
how to deal with people. It's all about people. Whatever you
Right.
do, in fact, if you look at legal system, it's all about people. Like how do two parties conversing each other? What is the equation? People management is the beautiful skill. And I was pathetic at it after, thanks to reading books, having good experience. Now my only agenda is to connect with different people, because networking is net worth in
Yes.
today's world. People say
True.
your network is your net worth.
Network is
It's
well.
not your network, it's your net worth.
Very
So
true.
so that's something which
Very true.
I have a good network in different ways. I am connected with legal fraternity. I know people from engineering backgrounds. I know people from medical fraternity. I know people from my own my colleges are different. So I'm trying to get, because the point is, because there's a saying that you are average of five people that you surround yourself
Yes.
with. So if I surround myself with people who are like they don't want to grow in their life, they don't. So if for my own development, I need to be surrounded with people who are better than me. So look
Yes.
at, for example, when it comes to legal knowledge, you are 100 times more than better than me, obviously 100%. So if I surround myself with you, if I have a conversations with you, I will understand more about this structure.
No,
So
very
that's the
true.
only
You should.
that inspires me. So yeah, and it's for me, it's motivation is overrated. Motivation chahiye. For me,
Mhm.
it's more about results. What is the ultimate result you want to get into? Your motivation अपने आप आ जाएगा. The result is
True.
to acquaint myself with better knowledge. उसके लिए I don't need to get motivation. I already have a practical step by step approach how to deal with things. That's all. So yeah,
Sure. That's very,
that's
very
why
true.
I do.
Very inspiring for me, and I'm sure everyone listening. And I have read your blog that you were in
Hmm.
prison and not the real prison, a different kind of a prison. And I do say that everyone must read it. It's a brilliant article.
Yeah, so just for
Yeah.
context purpose, so basically I have written, I wrote a, so so yeah, so it just came to my head that like I called a friend. It's like okay, so basically it was his dream to it was his dream to I'll not share what it was. There was something he was supposed to do. It was his dream
Okay.
to do that, and he was like not able to do just because he had login logout issues at office. Same goes for
Okay.
me. When I was in 2018, like these books that I'm reading and all that, 2018 nothing. I was just like corporate zombie. 15 hours I was doing. And
Right.
this, like, I realized that I'm giving lakhs of rupees of revenue to my company, and I'm not even getting 5% of it. The
Right.
salary, we think, oh, 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Middle class के dreams बहुत छोटे होते हैं. तो वहाँ पे क्या होता है ना, we have small dreams and then we get into that zone कि अच्छा मजा आ गया, but we don't realize we are getting paid for number of hours. We are not getting paid for number of value that we provide to a company, as as rich, as all these rich books that tells us. So my agenda was to make myself valuable. So that's why prison is, if you're in prison, that means prison में करते क्या है लोग, टाइम वेस्ट करते हैं, खत्म करते
Right.
हैं, नंबर, एज, अपने नंबर गिन रहे हैं, यस. So that's what, so yeah, that's
That
what
was
I want to do.
beautifully put. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Namita. I think it was a great insight. I think for anyone who will view this, it will really make them a better person, better version of themselves. They will have more knowledge, and I think very sporting of you, very humble of you to agree to do something like this, because you are
No, no,
a
it is
big shot.
absolutely my pleasure. Of course not, Shobhit. And I do believe that knowledge only adds value if you can share it.
Yeah, so I think that was amazingly done, and I really humbly, with all my heart, I thank you for doing this,
No, I
with
also
all
have
the
to
spirit.
thank you because it was very enriching for me as well, and to learn more about what inspires you too.
Yeah. Thank you, Namita. And that's all for the
Thank
day.
you.
And thank you so much. And guys, I'm going to put Namita's LinkedIn profile in the
Yeah.
description if you want to connect with her for any. She's a very humble person. She will always, get back to you if
Absolutely
she
feel
needs.
free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yes. And guys, please, if you want to know more about the knowledge business, please, I will give a link to my masterclass as well. Please visit that my website as well, and please get connected. I think as we both discussed, connection is the most important thing
Yes.
whether it's useful, whether it's learning. So
Yeah.
interaction is more important than anything else. In fact,
Yeah.
I was reading Sapiens, and that said the best the
Yes.
only thing that differentiates human species from other people is from because the ability to connect and converse with each other.
Yes. Yes.
Better communication, because
Yes.
dogs can't do that. Dogs can just
Yes.
bark, but we can intellectually converse with each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
On that note, they did say that in fact it is gossip which kind of helps the human race survive as
Exactly.
well.
Gossip is the most important thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've read that book as well.
So let's meet and let's
Yeah.
gossip.
Yes,
Okay.
I look forward to it. Good.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, Namita, for doing this. Let me
Thank you, and
just,
thank you for all of you for watching as well.
of course.
Yeah.